This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is August 1st, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, I think that way, Luke Sylvia. What's going on, bro? How are you?
I'm good. It is August 1st, like you said. It is my birth month, so if you guys would like to send me anything for my birthday, feel free to slide in the DMs.
Can we not do this?
What, bro? I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah, and then that means we're also in the month of college football beginning officially. Is there NFL preseason stuff this month? Hall of Fame game or anything?
I don't know. I think maybe the Hall of Fame game. I think preseason usually starts like early September. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway,
like dates.
We are getting
NFL. I'm not really.
We're getting so close to the season that will carry me to basketball season, which for me is college football. For you is the NFL, and I am just very excited for it. My Gators are playing against Utah. I think the first week in September. And I will be going to that game, 50-yard line. Shout out my boy Josh Mandola hooking it up with the tickets for that game. So going to be a lot of fun. A night game in the swamp, nothing like it. So I am looking forward to that, new coaching, all that stuff. So that's kind of where my head's at right now, Jonathan.
Hey, when are you taking me to my first Gators game?
Hey,
I've never been.
Whenever you want to go, you say the word, Jonathan, and we will.
Florida versus Utah. Let's go.
Okay, well,
I'm just kidding.
Well,
I know Lauren's got that.
Lauren's got that one, but we can absolutely work something because Lauren won't do the night games, or won't do anything but night games because she is pregnant and will continue to be more pregnant and will not want to stand out in that heat, anything like that. So I could see a world where me and you hit up a nooner or a 3:30 type of game. Would be a lot of fun. So yeah, you let
be honest with me. Put your Gator bias aside. How miserable is it being out in that sun,
dude? It is rough. Like as a student, it was fine, unless you do a little too much drinking. Especially in the student section. That's really the last time I've been to a game. I think. So like 2018, 2019, just because we moved to Nebraska, and I've been to more Nebraska games in the last couple of years than Gator games, which is a shame. But yeah, student section, games go by a little bit quicker. Everybody's standing. Everybody's just like loud and obnoxious. You've got, the token people throwing up, those people that drink a little too much. And yeah, but it's hot. It's definitely hot. But if you do like a 3:30 game, might not be as hot. But, we could take it. We could take it.
We'll figure it out. Someday we'll make it happen.
Someday this
season. All
right,
guys. Maybe. We'll see about that. We'll see about but definitely eventually, probably. Okay. Maybe, hopefully.
Wow.
All right.
Okay,
we'll figure it out. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. But, guys, we got some good news for you guys. First of all, we have a really big thank you to y'all. So, a few weeks back, Kenny Beecham, King of the Fourth Quarter, the dude's got a few different YouTube channels. He does a great job with all of his content. He put out a video right after the first couple of games of Summer League, and it was like him overreacting to Summer League, kind of in quotations overreacting. I don't think he really overreacted that much on that video. But at the beginning of it, he asked for his viewers to post in the comments whatever content creator or personality that they wanted to go on his channel to talk about their favorite team, and he did it for all 30 teams.
That's crazy, by the way.
We caught wind of this pretty early on. It is crazy. Mm-hmm. He's committing to 30 videos. That is a lot. That is no small feat. But we wanted to say thank you to you guys because, again, we caught wind of it pretty early, went right to the comments, and almost like every single Magic comment was either the Sixth Man Show or was mentioning us with another one of the great Orlando Magic podcasts.
Yeah.
And Kenny reached out to your boys. Mm-hmm. So last week or a couple weeks ago, we recorded like a 20, 30-minute thing with Kenny. That's supposed to be out sometime this week. So be on the lookout for that on his YouTube channel, Kenny For Real. Be sure that you subscribe to all of his channels. But the Kenny For Real channel is where we are going to be making an appearance, so we're super excited for that, Luke.
Yeah. And for those of you that have seen it, if he does it the way he's been doing it, it'll basically just be like a Magic related headline. Our name probably won't be in the headline, so just look for the one that's got, probably Paolo in the thumbnail. I would assume that's what we assume is that he'll do. But yeah, no, it's insane, man, to be able to pair up with him, collab with him to do something like that. I think I've been watching his videos since I was like 18 or 17, I want to say. So that's when I've kind of first started picking up on him. Since then, he has made multiple channels and has just been crushing it. So really cool. Kudos to him for really just taking the fans' words for it, as opposed to just like finding like the biggest like representative per se, like of each team. Just really cool that he would do that. So, and even cooler that he reached out to us. It was a fun time. Kenny is exactly how you think he is off camera. As you watch him in his videos every week, just like laid back, go with the flow, just incredible. So it was really cool to meet him, and thank you to you guys, and thanks to Kenny for that.
The thing that I think I appreciate about Kenny the most is he doesn't act like he knows everything, and he will like openly say, "I can't watch all games of all 30 teams."
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's bringing creators like us to on the channel to get a little bit more insight into each team. If you don't know who Kenny is, he is one of the biggest like NBA content creators on YouTube. He does a lot of stuff with NBA 2K. Him and a few of his like hometown buddies. He's from Chicago. They started a podcast a few years ago that got picked up by House of Highlights, the Through the Wire podcast. If you heard of Pee Wee to Plug, another one of our favorite like NBA YouTube and NBA Twitter personalities. So if you're not familiar with those guys, like check their stuff out and get familiar with them. A little bit of Magic news. Xavier Simpson, some people are calling him Captain Hook. You might remember him as basically the starting point guard for most of the Orlando Magic Summer League games. He has signed an Exhibit 10 contract with the Orlando Magic, so at the very least, he will be attending the Orlando Magic's training camp. We'll see if he's on the preseason roster, everything like that. But I don't like the Captain Hook nickname because that was Robin Lopez.
That was Robin Lopez.
Robin Lopez is the OG Captain Hook. And I'm not just like the dude left and went to Cleveland, but I'm not just about to hand off that nickname to somebody else. I'm not with that. I don't know
Plus,
about
he's a big Disney guy. So like a Captain Hook reference just feels fitting for a guy like Rolo. So yeah, I don't know. If he makes the final roster, we can talk about it. But what the number is at like 19 or 20 now? Like they've reached their capacity, I believe, as far as like right Exhibit 10s, two ways, contracts in general. I believe 20 is the max. And then like we've said the past couple weeks, come the end of preseason, they've got to really cut that number down to 15. So we will see what the Magic do. We will see if Xavier Simpson makes it past the cut, as well as those other guys that they've kind of extended basically training camp invites to.
My expectation would be he does not make the main roster, but perhaps crazier things have happened, but that would be pretty shocking to me. We do have some Paolo Banchero news, some pretty exciting stuff, but before we get to Paolo, we want to talk about our patrons. So if you guys have not heard, you can help financially support the show at patreon.com/the6thmanshow. Recently, we sent out a bunch of stickers out to our patrons, and you guys are slowly but surely getting those in the mail and slapping them on your thermoses, your laptops. Somebody put our sticker on their Subaru, Luke. Shout out.
On the butt of their car, bro. On
the bumper of their car. So, yeah, we do stuff like that for our patrons. There's also 3 affordable tiers where you can get various levels of benefits. So if you guys are interested in that, you can find us at patreon.com/the6thmanshow. And as part of our Hall of Fame tier package, we shout out all of our Hall of Fame tier patrons on every episode. I'm going to do that now if I can stop stumbling over my own words. Shout out Court Cousins, Armin, Elite Too Low, Jonathan Borges, Magic Player History, Wiffle, Ryan Singh, The Distract, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Lil Penny, Drum, Danimal, Duddo15, Bobby Skinner, Nate Donnelly, Gotti 93. Thank you guys so much. Now on to Paolo Banchero, Luke. First of all, we got word earlier this week from Shams Charania of The Athletic that Paolo Banchero was nearing an endorsement deal with the Jordan brand. Now, we saw him wear the Jordan shoes during one of his Summer League games, but now it seems like it's going to be official. We haven't heard any terms of the deal, but, we put out a reel. He's joining guys like Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic, all of those 3 up-and-coming rising stars in the NBA, borderline superstars, some of those guys. he joins that roster on the Jordan brand now, and it's pretty exciting. How did you feel about that? What was your reaction to Paolo joining Jordan?
It's cool, man. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I put a lot of investment into shoe deals and brands. I'm not like huge on shoes in general, to be honest. Like,
so you walk around barefoot?
Yeah, for sure. No, I just don't have any type of loyalty to like a brand. I will say like Nike running shoes is typically like the running shoe that I wear. But as far as like basketball shoes, like whatever looks good, honestly. Right now I wear Harden, so like, and it's Adidas, and I'm not like loyal to Adidas at all, you know. So it's yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I really care about it, but it's cool, man. It's cool that you have a guy that's gonna potentially get his signature shoe here in the next few years. You hope. Haven't had a guy like that since Dwight. So pretty sweet that we have even anybody on our team that can represent the Magic that way. We've seen the publicity that comes with having the number one pick. And it helps that he's been really good in the times that we've seen him as well.
So when it comes to, we're going to go on off a little tangent here. When it comes to picking your hooping shoe of choice, you just like go into like Finish Line or Foot Locker and you're like, it's that one, and you just go home with it?
So in all transparency, the reason I have Adidas and the reason I have Hardens right now is because when I worked in sports, the school that I worked for was Adidas, was an Adidas school, the college. So that's who we had to deal with. So I had like, I think it was something crazy, like 50% off or something like that. So I was like, but I didn't like Adidas shoes at all. Like in terms of like, I was looking through, I had to do it all online. And I just know what size shoe I wear. So I was like going through it and I was like, man, I hate all of these. And then finally I got far enough into it. I was like, okay, these Hardens aren't too bad. They're like white predominantly with like gold, stripe trim type of thing on it. So yeah, and it's a high top. It's got to be high top for me.
Oh yeah.
I there's people that don't wear high tops and they just do like the low top Kobe's and things like that. I just my ankles.
You're begging for
an
ankle sprain.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna act like I'm going hard by any means when I'm playing. So like I'd probably be good without the high tops, but like even just in high school, that's what I was wearing, and that's all I trust.
See, when I go to buy like a basketball shoe, I like dive into the research. I go into like the reviews, all of that. I go to like Soul Brothers on YouTube. I go to Wear Testers on YouTube. So I always look like what is the best shoe at the time for guards, right? Because they say big men, you want some more cushion. Mm-hmm. Smaller guys, you want a little bit less cushion, more traction.
Yeah. No, my thing is, like I said, I'm not like busting my butt. Don't get me wrong. I work up a crazy sweat. Like
you
more
ain't
than
out there hustling,
when I work
huh?
out. No, defensively, it's that Olay defense. Y'all see ya.
Really depressing.
And then offensively, I no lie, 75-80% of my shots come from the perimeter. Don't get me wrong, I'll come off a down screen, like I'll do whatever, but I'm not exerting just like a ton of energy in one possession, one side of the ball. I'm gonna be so gassed. I'm real with myself. I will be done by like end of game 2 if I do that.
All right, you're playing the 15. Your team is up 14-13. You need one stop and a bucket on the other end. At that point, are you getting after it defensively, or you're like, you know what, it ain't that serious?
So we're up 14-13, you said?
You're up 14-13. You need to stop, and then you need a bucket the other way.
We're playing straight up to 15?
Win by 2. Win by 2.
Okay,
that's why I said you're up
we're
14-13. You're up 1,
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, and at that point, like, I'll give up a layup. I don't care. I'll give up a layup.
Unbelievable.
No, but hear me, bro. I'll fight over screens so that we're not giving up a 3. I'm not. There's nothing I hate more than someone like hitting a 3 in my face for the game. That's not gonna happen. I'll go over the 3. I'll fight through the screens. I'll go over it. But on the other end, just know if I get the ball and you're 2 feet off me, I'm shooting that thing. Like it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter.
All right.
I'm going.
Well,
for the
me, I go with the Damian Lillard's, another Adidas shoe.
Okay,
it's got just enough cushion. I think they're like the Lillard 5s. I've had them for a minute. I've maybe worn them like 10 times. But it's like a mid-top, but it's probably got the best like ankle support I've ever had from a mid-top. And it's got really good like ankle lock and everything like that. So we're on a crazy tangent here. Back to Paolo signing with Jordan. Obviously, it's freaking jump man. Like, it's a big deal.
Right.
You're signing with the Jordan brand. That is a big deal. I don't know how much say or influence Michael Jordan has when it comes to who, what athletes they're signing. My guess is he's probably okay with them signing Paolo Banchero. But, I think, like, growing up, it just seemed like everybody was signing, like, with Nike.
Yeah.
In the recent years, like, sure, there's some Nike, but it seems like Jordan is making a more concerted effort in recent years to get some of these up-and-coming kind of rising stars, if you will. So it's more national recognition for us. Paolo's going to get a nice, well, not nice little, it's a nice fat check, I'm sure, from each year from Jordan. We saw him. We're going to talk about Paolo at the Pro-Am in Seattle in a minute, but we saw him playing in the Jordan 13s. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what Jordan he decides to play in this year. But obviously we've seen Zion Williamson get his own shoe. Luka's shoe, I believe, is coming out soon. I think Jason Tatum is supposed to get a shoe by the end of the year. So the 3 signature athletes there. I mean, hopefully within the next 4 to 5 seasons, we'll see Paolo with a nice signature shoe. And if it's the P5, is that like a shoe you would make a point to go out and buy?
I think you have to. Like, if you're a Magic fan and you actually, whether you hoop or not, honestly, but if you're a Magic fan and Paolo is crushing it too, I think it'd be hard to stray away from it, honestly. I feel like even as someone who's not a shoe guy, I'd have to do it because I'm a Magic guy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
P5's day one, that Orlando Magic colorway, boom. I'm swiping the Visa. I don't want to say I don't care what the cost is, because if it's like some of these LeBrons that are 195,
yeah,
like, Paolo, I love you, bro. I'm gonna have to just wait till my next check. Then
that's gonna be like a Christmas thing for me. It'll be like, hey, mom and dad, like, y'all want to like chip in half here, and then I'll get the other half. We'll work something out. That adult Christmas gift plan,
Right. Nike, if you want to, Jordan brand, if you want to sponsor the show and help us with that little 50% off, like Luke had at the old gig, we'll definitely do that. But, super cool just for him to get the recognition. And, we'll see. I'm excited to see what Jordan he plays in this year. But, Luke, in other news, Paolo Banchero at the Crawsover, the Pro-Am in Seattle, joined by Chet Holmgren, which we were robbed of the 1 versus 2 matchup in Summer League, as Paolo played 2 games and then was out the rest of Summer League. But we didn't even get to see Paolo versus Chet, unfortunately. They decided to play on the same team, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I have a baseless conspiracy theory about why they did not play. Because, the NBA schedule is getting ready to come out, and because we didn't see Paolo and Chet on national TV for the Summer League, they're going to make the first game of the season, not of the season, but the first time the Magic play the Oklahoma City Thunder, preferably in Orlando, because we did get the number 1 overall pick.
True.
They're going to make that a nationally televised game, and ESPN was like, yo, we cannot have this going down on NBA TV on a Saturday afternoon in July. We're saving this for prime time, maybe even a little inside the NBA TNT slot. Who knows? But I was all excited to see Paolo just go to work on Chet Holmgren, snap him in half, and then all of a sudden we find out they're on the same team. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, then you all of a sudden have them against Jaden McDaniels. So,
look, Jaden McDaniels looked great at the Crossover. That's all I will say. We know that basically the deal breaker for the Timberwolves in the Rudy Gobert deal was keeping Jaden McDaniels. Yeah. They got to keep him out of that trade. It's a big move for them, and he looked great. Game high 52 points for Jaden McDaniels. I'm not the guy buying all the Jaden McDaniels stock.
No.
But in that game, he was in his bag. I will give him that.
I also think that kind of should be what keeps Magic fans grounded in Paolo's 50-point performance as well. Because it's like,
hey, we saw Malachi Flynn drop 72 points a couple weeks ago in a Pro-Am.
Yeah.
Whatever you're thinking about the Crossover, right, it was a good time, but pump the brakes.
Jaden McDaniels averaged like 9 points a game last year. So, like, that's all I'm saying. I don't think that he's going to turn into some star. Is he a valuable piece to his team? Yes, obviously, very clearly. However, that being said, that does like that. This kind of helps us, right? In terms of this is like the similar conversation that we had during Summer League. I know it's Summer League. However, I know it's the crossover. However, Paolo looked good. It wasn't just the box score. I went back, I watched it, I watched his clips, I watched it, right? His footwork, man, is filthy. Just filthy. It was like it was bad. It was so nice.
I just want to say we do have to like lower the expectations. The level of competition was not even summer.
I just did that. I just did this.
I know, but I just like the footwork. Look, his footwork. He would look like Michael Jordan against you and me. You know what I mean? But that don't make him Michael Jordan.
No, but he was still putting in the work. Like he still was like shot fake, jab step, turn around, fadeaway jumper, and hitting it. Like I understand the competition is low.
No rim.
Right. I understand the competition is low. That's the last time I'm saying this. However, he looked good. Like he was in his bag, as the kids say, and was just tearing it up. You could tell they were having an incredible time. They played the whole game, or yeah,
they did not come out. I think they might have come out for like a split second, but
quick breather.
It was
maybe grab a
little
water
break.
Break.
Pretty close to all 40 minutes.
But yeah, and also I have a thought in terms of if your conspiracy, your baseless conspiracy, is inaccurate. My thought is, growing up, yes, I love to go head to head with like people that's like on even teams type of thing. But if there was ever a time to play with your buddy who was like you and him were like the alphas of the group when it comes to that sport, whether it's, football at recess or basketball in like a basketball practice setting, and you and your buddy were on the team and you guys knew that you were going to just destroy everybody, you're like, oh yeah, I like this. And I'm sure that was a little bit of the feeling Paolo and Chet got too, was like, me and you, 1 and 2, baby. And they both put in work. They both looked good, but Paolo looked great.
And to take that even one step further, like Jaden McDaniels, Paolo Banchero, both Seattle guys. Yeah. Chet Holmgren is a Minnesota guy, obviously. I don't think the number 1 overall pick wanted anyone coming into his hometown and then his team taking the L. Mm-hmm. Outside of Chet, they did not have a lot going on that Sonics team for Paolo. So if you have Chet and Jaden McDaniels just against Paolo and those other guys that were out there, maybe the result of that game is a little bit different, and I'm sure you're in your hometown, you want to win.
Are you worried that his team name was the Sonics? Do you think he picked that?
That is a legitimate concern. I'm glad that you brought that up. This is going to be a hot take, and I'm sorry to the good people of Seattle. I hope the Sonics don't come back for another 30 years. Because if the Sonics ever come back and Paolo is like a free agent, that's going to be a nervous summer.
Dude, it doesn't matter.
That's all I'll say about that.
I don't care like the success he's had to that point. The way he talks about Seattle, the way he reps Seattle basketball,
which is very endearing. Yeah. Like I really appreciate how much he loves Seattle.
And rightfully so. That's where he's from. That's where he gives a lot of his credit to him being the player he is today. But I'm just letting you guys know that you guys need to stop. Like myself, I have been I had a Supersonics hat like probably 7-8 years ago, and I would wear that thing all the time. And it was sick, and I loved it, and I just want Seattle to get a team again. I don't want that anymore. I don't want it. I don't want it. No. I don't want it anymore. Because like I said, I don't care how good Paolo is. When that time comes, his love for that city is always going to be greater than the love for Orlando. And that's just a fact. So I was.
We don't want to start the rumor mill already,
but I just feel like there's no way people aren't thinking this.
If there is ever significant traction towards the Supersonics coming back, the Magic need to sign Paolo to a 15-year extension with a no-trade clause
different.
In it on their end.
Like Donovan Mitchell, right? I believe he's a New York native. So a lot of Knicks fans are saying to themselves, like, oh, Donovan Mitchell, like, it just makes sense. Come home, Donovan Mitchell. Come home. Whatever, which is fine. And there's probably a lot of merit to that. I am sure Donovan Mitchell would love to play in New York, in MSG. Who wouldn't? But my point to this whole thing with Paolo and why, like, obviously people would say, well, if that's the case about them repping their hometown, Donovan would have already demanded a trade to New York a long time ago. No, this is different because the Supersonics have been gone for so long since the KD era that, like, them coming back, like, that is such a huge deal. And it's such a huge deal for the city. You're telling me Paolo wouldn't want to be in there night one to open up their arena and their team? So
I tell you what, Paolo, Magic at Seattle game one. You can be there, but you will be playing for us.
So yes, it's a legitimate.
It's been 14 years.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's been 15 seasons. It's been 15 years.
I don't think we're crazy.
Seattle is.
I don't think we're crazy for saying that at all, honestly. So I'm trying not to just like be bored of off season and be saying things like this, but genuinely, this is something Jonathan and I have been talking about off of camera for like since we got Paolo in general and heard him talk about Seattle because it's real. That his love for that city is real.
I forgot who brought up this point, so please forgive me, whoever it was. This is not my own organic thought. If Seattle does come back, they'll be an expansion team, and they'll be absolutely terrible. Like, it probably for a couple of years. So maybe, like, maybe it's just like, yeah, that's my home team, but, we're winning rings here in Orlando. Last thing I want to say about this is Seattle, the Sonics won a championship. If your team wins a championship, you should not be able to move that team. The historical significance of winning a championship in a city, you should not be able to move that team. I just think that's wrong. Everybody agrees the Sonics never should have been moved to Oklahoma City, but we don't want them back right now. That's our take.
There. Stay there.
Okay, Luke, I wanted to have a conversation with you. We've had a lot of talk, since drafting Paolo and even really towards the end of last season about the expectations for the Orlando Magic for next season. Talking about all of the young talent that we have on this team. You get Markelle Fultz back at the end of the season. Hopefully we're getting Jonathan Isaac back. We knew that there was a pretty good chance we were going to get a top 3 pick. You end up with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. It's Paolo Banchero. He looks incredible. He looks like the clear number 1 pick in the draft. Looks like the best player in the draft thus far before the season has started. But everything, you put all of that together, and I really just want to talk about how a lot of Magic fans feel about this upcoming season and why you are not crazy if you feel like the Magic are going to be much improved this season. So I want to start with just a couple of facts that we've talked about on this show. So the Magic go 22-60 last season. 16 or 15 of those losses were by 6 or less points. Okay? Most of those 15 losses, I think it is, came without Markelle Fultz in the majority of those games, and Jalen Suggs wasn't in 11 of those 15 games. So let's just say you have Markelle the whole season, you have Jalen Suggs the whole season. Potentially the Magic win half of those games. You're telling me you bring Jalen Suggs, a great defender, and Markelle Fultz back, and we are not able to close a 5-point gap in at least half of those games? I would argue that pretty hard. That with Jalen and Markelle, both of them healthy for the entire season, the Magic come pretty close to 30 wins. So just in the context of talking about the Magic improving, we're not talking about a true 22-win team potentially winning 30, 35, maybe even flirting with 40 wins next season. We're really talking about a team that probably should have been closer to 30 wins. Then you add Jonathan Isaac to the mix if he's healthy. And now, I know we've said that a million times. We have to say it. It's a disclaimer that we have to point out every time we have this conversation. But then you add Paolo Banchero, who looks like he is going to be a legitimate contributor, potential Rookie of the Year guy from day one. If you add both of those guys onto what should have been a 30-win team last year, all of a sudden, like 30, 40 wins becomes pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah. You mean next year?
Yeah, this coming season. Obviously, we can't go in the past, and Paolo doesn't go to Duke. He just goes right to the Orlando Magic. So, yeah, we're talking about next season. I don't think it's crazy and a super homer / biased take to say the Magic realistically could win 35 to 40 games this season.
Well, what was it that I said?
If everything goes right.
What was it that I said a few weeks ago? I think I put the number at 36, I believe. It's 36, 38. But
I think it was 36.
I think it was 36. That I was just saying, if this team, like, that was what I basically said, that, like, realistic to me is 36. If the team is fully healthy, the biggest disclaimer of all time with me saying that, but 36. 36, man. There's no reason, like you said, not just Markelle last year, right? But Markelle without a minutes limit. And we had Stephen Kagan of NBA University on Twitter was that last week? Last episode?
It was last week.
So,
a couple episodes ago.
Yeah. We had him on, and he was talking about, like, potential high-value assists, right? Like, I believe that was the analytic that he brought up, with Markelle being second on that list. It wasn't even
potential. It was actually high-value assist per 36 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So, like, those type of things made me start to really think about, okay, if Markelle's fully healthy, he's giving you 28 to 30 minutes a game, you would hope. I don't understand why. Like, people will laugh, right? Like, I'm sure that we'll go on other podcasts, before the season begins, and we'll say a statement like, realistically, I think the Magic could win 36 games last year. And the people that haven't actually looked at what the Magic were dealing with scenario-wise, most injured team in the NBA, as we know, we've said this so many times, but it is important. It adds perspective to the season last season. Not to mention, that last quarter of the season, you're intentionally losing games. We saw it. So, and with everybody healthy, man, it is so hard for me to see that this team can't win 36 games next year. So, and as I've also said, Jonathan, I am the pessimist of the group. So for me, even to admit this team can win 36 games next year, I typically have a lot of reservations about something like that. That's a huge jump, and we're not naive to that. But man, I think it is very possible. I think it is very, very possible that this team is at 36 and need maybe even better. Like, it really hinges on Paolo and Jonathan Isaac, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. I mean, one other thing that I think people are sort of sweeping under the rug is how good this team will be defensively. Just historically, and I think Magic fans really started to tune into this, at least younger, newer Magic fans started to tune into this with Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford's emphasis on the defensive end of the basketball and just always talking about the defensive rating, saying that historically, if you are top 10 in defensive rating in the NBA, you have a very good chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I believe every team that finished in the top 10 in defensive rating in the NBA last year made the playoffs.
Except for maybe
when we are talking
Knicks,
about,
right?
I believe the Knicks finished outside of the top 10. I think they finished 11th.
Okay.
The last week of the season, they were in the top 10, and then just kind of at the end, they went ahead and they actually fell outside of the top 10. So let's look at this. Boston, Golden State, Phoenix, Miami, Cleveland, Memphis, Dallas. The Clippers did not. The Clippers were 8th. The Toronto Raptors and the Utah Jazz. But weren't the Clippers in the play-in game? The Clippers were the 9th seed. So, I mean, realistically, if we were going back to a handful of seasons ago without the play-in game, the Clippers would have made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, the top 10 teams all made the postseason. You're right there in the mix. So, after the All-Star break, the Orlando Magic were 7th in the league. It's a 22-game stretch, so it's a pretty decent sample size. They were 7th in the entire NBA in defensive rating. You are telling me you're bringing back Markelle Fultz 25 to 30 minutes a game. If you're bringing back Jonathan Isaac, even if he's not 100%, 70, 80% of Jonathan Isaac is still better than some of the guys that we were throwing out there in games last year, like Ignas Brazdeikis, Admiral Schofield, that was playing in some of these games, especially towards the end of the year.
Yep.
This team, the floor, in my opinion, should be a top 10 defensive team in the NBA.
Yeah.
History shows us most of the time that's good enough to make the playoffs.
Well, and that's the other thing, though, is like it's not just defensively that this team is going to show improvement. And this team is not going, like, this team is going to be legitimately a great NBA defensive team next year. It all comes down to the offensive side of the ball, in my opinion. But you've got Markelle Fultz, who is going to provide for these guys in terms of, getting them open looks, going back to that high value assist analytic. And then you've got Paolo, who finally is a guy that Magic added to the roster who can create his own shot. Not only can he create his own shot, he's going to have defenders thinking about also his ability to do what Markelle does in terms of, get the ball where it needs to be for his guys to get an easy shot. The vision on him is incredible. It was underrated. I'm sure it's still underrated by the casual fan for sure who did not tune into Summer League. It's hard not to get excited about the future of this team, and it's even hard in the immediate to not get excited about this coming season. I think it's going to be a good time, and I personally, Jonathan, I wouldn't mind a schedule like last year in terms of the layout of difficulty, just from the standpoint of I want to start the season with some cupcakes. Give me that easy start to the year, and then in December, like end of November, December, start to ramp it up for these guys in terms of difficulty and talent level of the other teams, because I would love for them to be able to get into a rhythm. I just would hate more than anything for them to start the season with a gauntlet and just get beaten to the ground to the point where they just lose a lot of morale. I want to see them to absolutely run over some bottom teams in the league.
I'll tell you what. Let's take November and December's schedule from last year, where it was like every other night or almost every night you were playing a playoff team or a team above 500. Let's push that to like the February, March, April schedule. Let's beat up on all the bad teams early. Let's get that confidence up. Mm-hmm. Coming out of the All-Star break, let's get into a rhythm where the team should be peaking at that point. The goal is to get better over the course of the season. Peak at the right time, and then let's look at March and April and be like, yo, we have an actual legitimate chance to make the playoffs. Yeah. And I don't want to talk myself into, and I don't want to say on this podcast that I'm going to guarantee the Magic are going to be a playoff team, because that would be really bad. If it didn't happen, it would make me look very foolish. But this is really the start and the end of my argument. The personnel on this roster and the culture that has been set in place and the emphasis that has been made on the defensive end, my whole argument is the Magic should be a top 10 defensive team next season. And historically, that points to teams being in the playoffs. So you have a team that should be top 10 defensively, should be much improved offensively, just with Markelle Fultz playing more, other guys improving and adding Paolo Banchero. Tell me why the Magic don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And people will say, oh, well, you got to be better than this team. You got to be better than this team. You got to be better than this team. Every year, teams fall. This is just a cyclical thing. Every year, teams fall. Other teams get better. It's just the way that it goes. 2 years ago, the Knicks made the playoffs. Guess what? They fell. Guess what? This year, the Charlotte Hornets made the play-in game. We don't know what's going on with Miles Bridges. Without Miles Bridges, the Hornets aren't just going to be able to sign a guy and be like, okay, you're going to do what Miles Bridges did for us last season. At least not to the same extent. Right. So if that is the case, the Hornets will not be as good as they were last year, in my opinion. If this Kevin Durant trade goes down with the Brooklyn Nets, the Nets will not be as good as they were last season. And even last season, they had a lot of, injury concerns, but they weren't that good.
Trade him to the West. Get him out of here.
Trade him to the West. Please do us a massive favor. Trade him to the West. Are the Knicks going to be significantly better unless they trade for Donovan Mitchell? Maybe a little bit better, but probably not significantly better. The Pacers probably not going to be a lot better. The Wizards definitely not going to be a lot better. The Pistons not going to be a lot better. We should be right there knocking on the door of the play-in.
But do you think the Pistons are having the same conversation we are right now?
I don't think so. Because the Pistons have some really good
got a good young core.
Players in place. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart. Yeah. What's the other Jaden that the guy from Memphis, for whatever reason, His name is Jalen Duren. Okay, there we go. They have a very good young core, but we have a mix of that and like good veteran players. You know, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Gary Harris. I mean, I would still put our core like above them, just like collectively right now. If we're talking about ceiling, maybe it's a different conversation. But just as good as our guys are right now, I still think we have the leg up on Detroit. And let's take a look at post All-Star break. Where was Detroit in terms of defensive rating? Detroit was, I'm having a hard time. They were 15th. So I don't really think we have I don't really think it's an argument right now. I'm sure Detroit Pistons fans would feel differently about that, but I'm having a hard time not talking myself into the Magic making the playoffs, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Are you looking at the standings from last year?
I am.
So looking at that, knocking out the teams that you've knocked out, are you thinking the Knicks move in to play-in territory?
They could, but I wouldn't guarantee it.
Who's got to come out for the Magic to get in? You're looking at it. I'm not. But.
I would. Right now, I'm looking at the Hornets. Okay. It's Miami, Boston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Toronto, Chicago, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Cleveland, Charlotte.
Okay, so it's got to be Brooklyn and Charlotte, and the Knicks can't jump in.
Yeah, and right now, as they currently stand, I don't think the Knicks are significantly better than the Magic. Now, maybe Jalen Brunson is going to be like the solution to all of their problems. I know the point guard position was a massive flaw for them last season, so I could be wrong. Maybe he just like catapults in, but I don't know that Jalen Brunson makes them leaps them into the top 10 defensively, so to speak. I mean, they're at 11, so you can make that argument there, but I just think we should be healthier this year. We have. Like obviously all this rides on Jonathan Isaac coming back, which I know why people are like just can't buy into that. I totally get it. But if he comes back, Jalen Suggs is healthy for the whole year. We're relatively healthy everywhere else. Just the personnel alone, it would be a massive failure in my opinion if the Magic aren't top 10 defensively next season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's going to be close.
That's the one point I keep coming back to.
I think it's going to be close. Because it's not a guarantee. That the reports now are that if KD doesn't get traded, he is still willing to be playing for Brooklyn. So, like, KD's talent alone on the court, like, you don't want to be close game with them with 5 minutes left in the game because you're probably going to lose. Like, a team like the Magic, I would say that's the case. So, you're just not going to have an answer for KD. And so, yeah, I think that it rides a lot on that. There's a lot of variables. It is not just about the Magic. It's about the teams around them. And so, yeah, I think the Hornets have to bounce out. KD's got to get dealt to the West. And because I just think you got to really prepare as if the Knicks are going to make the play-in at the very least. So you need two teams that come out of the playoff discussion, pretty much, in my opinion.
All right, well, let's look at what happened in the West, okay? Like, nobody expected the Lakers to miss the playoffs. Fair?
That's fair.
If Damian Lillard doesn't get hurt in Portland, maybe they don't trade C.J. McCollum, and then with a healthy C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, you expect Portland to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So it's stuff that happens like that every single season, you know? Like the Clippers. Clippers ended up as the 9th seed. I don't think, even without Kawhi Leonard, people were banking on a healthy Paul George, but obviously, like, you don't have most of those guys for most of the season, so you end up the 9th seed, but like at the end of the playoffs last year, even Kawhi with the torn ACL, you wouldn't have said the Clippers were going to be the 9th seed or really end up the 7th seed. Mm-hmm. Was it? No, I'm sorry, the 8th seed and then lose in the playing game and end up the 9th seed, just kind of the way playing stuff is super confusing. But my point is, that stuff happens every year. A team that you expect to make the playoffs misses the playoffs. If you're the guy that goes, 16 for 16 on your playoff teams at the beginning of the season, like, you need to start contributing some money to Vegas. Like, it happens every year. I'm not counting on the Magic, but I just feel like our road to the playoffs isn't as unlikely as people think. This is a potential. This could be our most homer podcast ever. Like, is I'm acknowledging that is realistic.
Get a hold of this episode.
Who cares?
Absolutely. We don't care. Else
the odds of a Raptors fan seeing this is really high because they're always on our YouTube channel. But I don't care, man. I just keep coming back to that. They should be at least close to finishing top 10 defensively.
Yeah.
And history shows us that gets you 70% of the way there.
Just need an offense, baby. That's all I'm asking for.
And health.
Yeah. Actually, I'm asking for a lot, but I want an offense most of all just because I feel like that's where the biggest leap is needed. I think the defense just happens organically.
Yeah. Luke, I think that's going to do it for us.
Yeah. We're done being homers, at least on air. I'm sure we will hit stop recording, and Jonathan and I will continue to talk ourselves into the Magic making the play. And maybe by the end of the night, the Magic are a top 5 seed in the East. I don't know. At the rate we're going, we might get there.
That is unlikely. But for Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys are listening to The Sixth Man Show. We will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!